Hi everyone, it's Shirley with backhome76. Let's see, what is it? Wednesday morning. And I told you that I would read you some excerpts from my novel that I'm writing about my journey selling my home and going to a rural community that I did not like. And I just wanted you to know my background and how I feel about this move. It was very traumatic for me, probably because I'm a senior. It's harder to adjust, but it was definitely the wrong move for me. And I haven't published this novel yet. I'm still working on it, but it is done. I'm just kind of refining it. And this actually, what I'm going to read you is, uh, let's see here. The title of the book will be My Journey to Hell and Back. And if I can capture this, well, I'll capture the picture that's on the first chapter after I read it. I might not read it all. I'll just read a few paragraphs so you can get a feel for how I feel, and let me know if you've experienced anything similar or and how you've handled it, because I would like some, I don't know, I guess help, and just listen to other stories. It helps me heal. So I'll start off here. It says, my home in Denver was my dollhouse, my pride and joy, and my child. My parents bought the home in 1953. I was 7 years old and started second grade, which was only 2 blocks away. I'd walk to school each day, and as I walked towards school, I would keep turning around to wave at my mother, who would stand on the sidewalk in front of our house. She kept a watch on me to make sure I made it to school safe and sound. When recess would start outside in the playground, I'd run over to the chain link fence in the playground to see if I could see my mother in the yard. Sure enough, more times than not, I'd see her outside working in the yard. We'd wave at each other. My mother and I were very close. I was an only child, so that's kind of why I did the things I did, I guess. Okay, continuing on. At this house, each decoration, each piece of furniture and accessory seemed perfectly suited to my style and personality. I'd constantly place and replace my decorative items throughout the house. I'd dust them off, vacuum them, work in the yard until everything met my requirements. The outside and inside of the house sparkled in my eyes. The sounds in that home were so familiar: creaky stairs, the clean smell of the entire house, and the hum of crickets on a summer night. After I sold this family home, I would close my eyes and imagine myself standing in the doorway and walking into the house. I do this all the time, now on a daily basis, while I'm in this rural community that I hate so much. I grieve the loss of my beautiful little family home. I still cannot, on this bleak, snowy day in rural Colorado, in my newly purchased home, imagine what possessed me to sell my Denver home. I am and will always be so lost in this rural community. I feel so out of sorts, out of place, alone, lonely, and so very, very sad. My Denver house was like a living, breathing thing with character and history. Scattered throughout were the memories of my youth, the beautiful knotty pine walls in the basement that my father had built. Fascinating treasures that I collected my entire life were knockouts, and they dressed every room. When I hosted parties, everyone commented on the beauty of my home and how I had decorated it. They'd say my parents would be proud of me for keeping the home in such meticulous condition. During these visits, my friends would say they felt like they were in a museum. They would wander around the house, my yard, and would comment on the beauty that surrounded them. These are the details that I recall so fondly of my life in the beautiful Denver home. People give up homes and move on for various reasons. Sometimes the circumstances are in their control and sometimes they aren't. Over the past several years, I found myself grieving the loss of my mother, who lived with me for many years. I must admit, I also thought about how the neighborhood had been declining for the last 15 to 20 years. In 1953, when my father purchased the house, the neighbors were families who maintained their yards, waved, and were polite and friendly. Right before I sold this house that had changed so dramatically, the neighbors did not take pride in the appearance of their homes and yards. This caused the neighborhood to decline rapidly. Lots of parked cars in the yard, on the ground were on Lots of parked cars were in the yards where once grass had grown. Old dilapidated vehicles lined the street, large rickety old vans, kids loudly running in the street. Firecrackers were constant until it snowed. SWAT teams would show up at a few homes, arresting the occupants. Some young toddlers would even use the front yards as their bathrooms, squatting and doing their business outside in broad daylight. One summer day I was working in my backyard and I smelled a strong smoke odor. I followed the strong smoke odor to my front yard only to discover that a neighbor had lit the tree stump in his front yard on fire instead of taking the time to cut it down. I immediately called the fire department and they roared up to the house with their fire truck and immediately extinguished the fire. And so I'll end there, and then next time I'll read some more to you. But that's kind of maybe gives you a background on why I left that home. And at the time I did sell it, I was pretty fed up with the area, the neighbors, and I'm not putting people down. That's not my purpose here. I'm just saying that I'm a different, I guess, generation, and we took care of our yards. We took pride in ownership. And when I saw, especially the SWAT teams that would show up and arrest neighbors, it made me wonder what was going on right under my nose. And a lot of nosy neighbors I knew they were watching me. And I had a security alarm in my home. I had a 6-foot fence surrounding the backyard, a fence in the front yard with a locked gate. And so I always felt, really safe in my home. But I thought, my gosh, it's like a prison. I go out in the yard and I get evil looks from neighbors. Probably, I don't know why. I know they had a organization called Neighborhood Inspections, and we were to call them if there were problems in the neighborhood, like maybe severely unkept yards or child neglect or drugs or, and I used that quite often because I think I was the only one in the whole area that wanted to maintain the neighborhood and not let it decline any further. And after all, I had to live there. And some may view that as wrong, but they say if you see something, say something. And you never know if you're saving someone's life when you report an oddity, or I don't know. If there was harm to me and somebody saw that and I was unable to get help, I would hope that they would do the same for me. But it still grieves me that I left that home. I keep thinking, well, why didn't I just keep it and mind my own business and stay there? And but I did that for many years. And I don't know, I just felt that someday, maybe when I left my home and came back, it wouldn't be there. It'd be destroyed or burned, or there were a lot of gunshots. I thought somebody might be aiming at me when I'm in my yard, and I know there were a lot of drive-by shootings. I'd hear gunshots at night. And so this rural community kind of attracted me because it seemed so peaceful and small, but there was crime there too, a big drug problem as I understand it. So I just keep going over it in my head. Why did I do that? Could I have done more to stay there? And I drive by my old house often. People tell me, don't do that. You're torturing yourself. But I have to see it. I have to look at it. And I just cannot believe the state that it's in right now. There's no grass left. I had beautiful flowers all over, maintained grass. You know, I had a lawn service come in all the time, spring, summer, fall, winter, to spray the lawn to keep the weeds out and fertilize it. And oh, it just was like a carpet. And they say that's what happens to the older neighborhoods. Sometimes they decline, but it doesn't have to happen. People don't have to let that happen. I just didn't understand it. And gentrification, they kept saying, was coming into the area, and maybe it would help upgrade, but I never saw it. It just kept declining and declining. And so I just sold and I ran. And maybe I made a big circle, you know, selling that home, going to this rural community that I'd been thinking about for 5 years, that it would be nice for me. Maybe I made a big circle and then returned to my hometown, but in a much nicer area, in a new townhome. No one else had lived there. I could make it mine, decorate it from scratch. So I don't know. I try to look at it at all different angles, and that's kind of why I started this YouTube. I just want to hear people's different experiences, see if I'm way out in left field or if what I'm experiencing is kind of normal. I think it is, but I just like to connect and see what other individuals have been through. So I'm going to go back to the Cultural Center today for more training to be a volunteer. And then this afternoon I have some plans. So I think I'm going to end this now. And thank you so much for listening. And I'll go through my novel and pick out more excerpts to read to you so you can get a feel for where I'm at. And I appreciate you listening. And I hear other YouTubers say, please subscribe. It's free. And it helps me and my channel. And it's exciting to see it grow. I love it. I'm very creative. And I want your feedback. I want to know your thoughts. And maybe you might come up with something I haven't even thought of that would help me. So thank you very much. And I'll see you again soon. And have a good day.